You are tired of average. You want more out of life. You know you're capable of something greater. This show will help you become resilient in your home, at work, and in your community. Welcome to the Resilient Humans Podcast with your host, Kevin Wood. Welcome back to the Resilient Humans Podcast. I have an awesome guest today, a 16-year business owner, and now a mentor of other businesses for the last 5 years. She's also a big fan of dogs and is currently training for an Ironman triathlon. Welcome to the show, Taryn.
Thanks, Kevin. Super hyped to be here.
Yeah. So this is going to be a cool episode because we've known each other for quite some time now, and you're actually my business mentor, which is kind of cool.
Our relationship has crossed many paths over many, many years, and that's pretty awesome. That's super fun. I love that so much for us.
Yeah. And we just met each other for the first time in person just last year in
Yeah, it took too
Chicago.
long.
It did take too long. That's true. Tell us a little bit about yourself so our listeners know who you are, where you're from, and what you've been up to.
Yeah, so I started off as a 20-year-old opening my first business, which was a gym, a CrossFit gym, just like yours. Kind of just thrust into the moment, right place, right time, as our gym in our small town was burning down one night. And the guy that I was working for, I used to do CrossFit with him in the corner of that gym. And he just said, well, if we're going to do it, now is the time to do it. And, being 20 and you see what sounds like a good opportunity, you're just like, yep, sure, I'm in, and not really knowing what is ahead of you. But it turned out to be one of the greatest things I've done with my life. And it has opened up so many doors and so many cool opportunities. And along the way, just having done that for 15 years, led into this business mentorship role that I play, which is just so rewarding and so fun and so different every single day, and just makes my days full of so much joy and excitement, for sure.
That's so cool. So you didn't have any like business background prior to going into this CrossFit business?
No, I actually went to school to be an athletic therapist. And so you take a business class, but stuff like that is not actually really applicable into real life. And honestly, in that moment, you're not in that class thinking about that you're going to start a business. So how much of that do you actually retain or think that you're going to carry forward? Which was, for me, was pretty much nothing. Um, so yeah, it was just not in the cards for me. And, I don't know what other people's stories are like, but my parents were not okay with not abandoning, but just like not using it and deciding to go a complete 180 from what I set out to do.
That's funny. I also took business administration 1001. I just remember taking it. I don't remember anything about it though,
Yeah.
but same thing. Like owning a business was definitely not in my cards. It wasn't even
No.
in like a backup of a backup plan at all. Right.
My
Like
parents were very
so
traditional,
weird.
like 9 to 5 union workers. And so, the way that they grew up and the way that they formulated their life was kind of how they thought that I was going to do it, and be a stay-at-home mom with lots of kids and a working husband. And that is just not at all what it turned out to be, which I am completely good with.
So it's fascinating. We both kind of started our businesses in the same trajectory, kind of just thrown into it. How did you develop over time your sense of business?
Honestly, it's just trial and error, which is a terrible thing to say, but that's what happens. You make a couple of bad decisions and you either learn from them or you don't, and you just keep repeating that. And ideally, through that process, you reach out for help from people who are more experienced and know what
Mm,
they're doing to sort of expedite that. That wasn't my story. I spent 8 years turning my wheels and spending a lot of money, time, and attention to do all the wrong things. But that was kind of the course that I took. And eventually you overcome your ego and ask the right questions to the right people. And then all of a sudden things just happen a lot faster and a lot smoother and better.
that's cool. CrossFit Canada has this new podcast out that Matt from CrossFit Aurelia is
Oh
hosting.
yeah. He's a good dude.
And somebody just commented on one of them about, getting support from headquarters versus other affiliate owners. And that's, it's both. You should be getting help from not just mentorship companies and whoever's above you, but also people that are beside you. They're in the trenches, and that's definitely what I used back in the day. Tony and Jody Bainbridge from CrossFit Fredericton, shout out to them because I probably wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for them and their help. And I love being able
So
to be
good.
able to support others in that
Yeah.
role that they had held for me when I was first starting out as well.
See, I had a little bit of a different experience. Like this person that I was working for was older than me. He was a successful chiropractor. Like, so he had business experience and just even life experience that I didn't have.
Mm.
And so when the opportunity came up, it made sense. And that was kind of our deal that he was going to mentor me through it. But in the long run, it actually didn't play out like that. So my experience like that was really different right off the start. But there definitely were those people who came along, through the years and just see that young kid that's just trying to find her way. And yeah, for sure. I have a few of those too.
So when you first started, I like I like talking about it because I didn't have it back then. But about your vision and your mission, how did that develop over the years when you were starting your business?
Yeah. I mean, especially with that niche and that type of business, CrossFit gym owners are so, so, so passionate about just about the method and the model and the message all associated with that. And actually the timing of when I decided to open this gym was a really integral part with my family, as I had some family members who were going through some really extensive just type 2 diabetes stuff, a diabetic coma, and like almost died. And there were just like some really traumatic like health things that were happening in my family. And I just kind of made it my personal goal at that time was I didn't want to run the same race that my family was working through and trying to like navigate genetics and hoping that I wouldn't end up in the same boat. And CrossFit came into my life as sort of the tool that powered that forward. And as I saw my own life transpire, you get caught in that message of just, it did so much for me and I want to help others have that same transformation to their life and give them the confidence and the power to do the things that they didn't think they could do, or just even to get control of the spiral they might be caught in. And, being 20, making money was just not on my radar. Like I didn't open my business to make money. I opened my business to help change lives. And that was just the method that I was going to use to do that because I had seen what it had done for my own life, and I'm sure you share a very similar story in some way, shape, or form too. We all do.
That's most CrossFit gym owners' origin story.
Yeah.
Not in it for the money, and then it's like, oh shit, I have to pay all these bills.
And
I kind of need to
and
be in it for the money.
arguably it's all small business owners. Like we're so
Yeah, yeah,
passionate about being technicians of our craft. Like we're just good at what we do and we want to help people with whatever it is that we solve. So you can really replace CrossFit Gym with any small service-based business in there.
yeah,
And the storyline is exactly the same for sure. It's never about the money, it's about the service.
yeah. And it's good to be guided by that. You still have to pay the bills and you still have to make
Yes.
business decisions
Yeah.
along the way.
Yeah.
So everybody that listens to this podcast, we all know how to build resilient humans and what that takes. For those that are in the business world or even looking to get into the business world, what would you think are some of the characteristics needed to help build a resilient business? What are the components of those businesses that you've been working with?
Yeah, really two. Like when I think about it, it really boils down to like two main things. The first thing is the ability to be curious, right? Like the ability to go and seek out and learn and just explore and find out what ideas exist out there and find out what methods and ways to do things. So just the ability to take initiative on that, to go out and explore and be curious about what other people in your industry are doing that are successful and have the things that you want and are the types of people you want to be and all of those sorts of things. So curiosity is kind of like the very first thing, right? Otherwise, you get trapped in your own box of you only know what you know, right?
Mm.
On the flip side of that is the ability to fail. And the people who struggle with this are usually the business owners who don't end up lasting very long in the long run. The idea that business is just a game, like it truly is. It's what do I have to say in order to get the attention that I need in order to get you to do what, and this is going to sound terrible, but like follow along with me here. What I need to say to get you to do what you need to do in order for us to work together. Like I have what you need, but there's a series of steps that need to happen in between for us to connect, right? Those steps are not black and white, and they can be accomplished in 10 different ways. But your ability to go be curious about what are the different steps, and then when you go and trial and error one, that if it's an error, to not just shut the door and turn your back and be like, okay, well, this is just the way it's meant to be, or just like cut it out completely, like just stop doing it completely, right? So I think it's a combination of just being able to be curious, and then also how you adapt or what you do with failure.
The image that comes to mind is like a room full of strings that are hanging from the ceiling, and just being curious and be like, I wonder what happens if I pull on this one, and then something good happens. You're like, I'm gonna keep pulling on that string because it's
Yeah.
making magic, and then you
Yeah.
pull on another one. It's like, oh, that didn't have the intended outcome. I wonder what I could do differently.
Yeah.
That's all I see.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
like imagery, and hopefully that resonated with
It
somebody
does. Yeah.
before. Yeah. What would you see as the biggest failing point for businesses?
I think it happens right at the beginning. It's your ability to understand that what you have is actually what people both want and need. There's a lot of the times where we think we have something cool, or it worked for us, or this would be a great idea if, and then it's not actually like market tested, or it's not actually what your audience wants. It's a cool concept, but it's not actually it's not what people want. So putting together that something that your audience actually wants, that's kind of step one, right? And step two is understanding who you're talking to. And so I was just actually talking about this on our session this morning inside our CEO Clubhouse, is when you talk to everybody, you're talking to nobody.
Mm,
And so being able to nail down your messaging to actually land with the people that you want to work with and you can best help, then you're going to have the right audience to talk to, right? And so when we start out, we know we have this like awesome thing that can solve a lot of problems, but we're usually desperate for cash, right? And so we just throw it out into the World Wide Web, this big void of a bajillion people, and nobody's actually listening because you're just blending in with all the noise. But yet we keep on doing that, keep on doing it, keep on doing that. And then we wonder why our business isn't actually growing in the speed that we want it to. So I think right off the start, those are kind of like the beginner mistakes, I would say.
I see that as a lot of business owners think of casting the widest net possible in
Yeah.
the biggest ocean possible. There's a good chance you'll catch absolutely nothing.
Yes.
Whereas if you actually take the time to do some research and ask around and find out, hey, there's that local pond that's just over the hill over there. It's
Yeah.
filled with fish. You should go cast your line in there. And it's like, okay,
And
wait, that's way
I
easier
don't,
to do.
yeah. And I don't know if it's a fear of like what people will think of you because you're starting out, you're starting something new, and you don't necessarily want to start with your local audience or your warmest audience, your family and friends and all the people surrounding you. But like, honestly, that's how I've grown 4 businesses, is just starting in the nucleus of it all. And that way you have people who know you, people who like you, and people who trust you and want what you have. So you kind of have like all the right cards, but we let our ego get in the way. It's just easier to
Yeah.
shout into the void and hope it lands with somebody across the world, right?
That's the thing. People want a bigger megaphone. They think, oh,
Yeah,
if I get a bigger megaphone, then that'll work. Like,
exactly.
so
Exactly.
can you talk a little bit about affinity marketing? So for business owners, this goes against what we were just talking about, like casting the biggest net possible. Affinity marketing kind of flips that. So can you go into what that means?
Yeah. So we have like 4 pools that are kind of in, like, if your little stick man is the middle of the bubble, there are 4 bubbles that extend outward from you. Okay. And it's like your hottest audience to your coldest audience. People that take less time, energy, and attention to recruit versus they take a lot of time, energy, attention, and money to bring into your world. So when you start at the nucleus, your family is the most immediate resource you can go to recruit into your business, to solve their problems, to get to be your paying customers first. And that's because those are the people that are the closest to you. So they are paying attention. They're probably talking a lot about what you're doing. So, obviously know, like, trust is very, very high with your family members. So they are the nucleus. So if you're going to start something, that's where you want to start. And it
My
might not
mom
be
likes
like
all
your,
of my posts.
yeah, my mom too.
Same.
My dad was a walking billboard for me. He always wore my
Right.
clothes everywhere we went. Um, and it doesn't necessarily need to be like your immediate family. It could be like your extended family, but they're still warm to you, right? From there, we go friends. So the people that you're hanging around with, these are the same people that you're going to keep up to date with what you're doing and talking about, the business that you're building or whatever your new product or service is. And then we go to your workplace because that's probably one of the second places we spend the most time next to our bedroom or in our house. So you're having water cooler chats with your colleagues or whatever it might be, they're going to be kept up to date. And then your last kind of is the people you spend your hobby time with. So your Thursday night golf buddies, or your on the weekend you play frisbee golf with this group. Like those people you're
It's called
having,
disc golf. I'm going to have to
whatever.
correct you on that.
Those are the people who are also going to be keeping up to tabs. So when you look at this, these bubbles as they extend outwards, the time, energy, attention, and money to bring these people into your world is very little, because the content are naturally organic and they're going to be talking about you to their audiences as well. And so it's just kind of like a trickle down effect, as opposed to speaking to the World Wide Web. Not only does that cost time, energy, attention, but it also costs money, right? To bring people who don't know you, don't like you, don't trust you into your world. And so that's why, it makes more sense to start in the nucleus, but we always want to start on the outside because it's easier.
Yeah. And that's why we've just, with our business, referrals are the biggest source of
Yep.
new members coming through the door, more so than people filling out a form on a Facebook ad or website, whatever.
Which is amazing, because it's reinforcing that you're doing a great job, which,
Yeah.
like, all the commends to you, but it definitely is a passive marketing strategy. But I know you because we work together. And so being able to put yourself in positions where you can cultivate that culture to bring referrals easily and organically, and just simply asking for them, like, that's how you try and take control of that scenario for sure.
We just had 11 brand new people walk through the door last Wednesday for
That's
our Bring a
awesome.
Friend Day. And then today it was emailing all of those people and saying, thanks for coming. I'm glad
Yeah.
so and so brought you in and you trusted them. I see here on your form that you said your goal was XYZ. I'm pretty sure that we have a good opportunity to work with you and help you towards that goal. And then we'll see. I haven't checked my email since I sent them, but we'll see what comes of it, right? But that's how it starts. It starts with that referral and people talking about your business because it solved the problem for them, and they know their friends better than
Yep.
anyone else, and they know that they can get assistance from here. So,
So good. So
yeah.
good.
Um, when it comes to, I guess, either starting or running a business, what what type of person do you need to become in order to be successful? Because there's the business side of things, but then there's also the personal development side of things. So can you talk a little bit about that side of it?
I think this is like a catch 22. I feel like this is either a really over talked point of view, or it's a really under talked point of view. Now, here's what I mean by that. You're, like you said, to run a business, there is a base level knowledge that is required to set the right steps up possible to get your business moving in the way it needs to. But as the problems change and as the problems evolve, you as an individual need to move with that also. And so these are, these are just basic things. Take care of yourself. And it's so funny that two gym owners are here sitting talking about this. But the very first thing has to be take care of yourself. Like, what is the saying? Use the saying for moms, for example, who are always so selfless and want to look after everyone else, so their own health and wellness gets sacrificed, and then it's hard for them to then take care of others. So if you take care of yourself, you'll be in a better state of mind, state of body, and all of those things to handle more pressure, to handle more decisions, to think clearer, make better decisions. move faster, make decisions faster. Just a trickle down effect because you look after yourself both physically and mentally like that, right? I say it's either under talked or over talked. It's over talked because you can't just only focus on this part and then expect your business just to follow suit, right? So there's a balance there. And then likewise, you can pour all your time and attention into building your business, but eventually, like with a stacked full calendar back to back to back to back all day from start to finish, you're a useless human being at the end of the day. And so the work that you're actually doing, this valiant mission that you're on, you're not even in an ideal frame of mind to be able to work that valiant mission, you know? So it's important to look after yourself, take care of your physical and physical, mental well-being to push your business forward. They go hand in hand.
We've seen over the years, it kind of ebbs and flows. Things like morning routines. And I've
Yep.
read The Miracle Morning, and it
Yep.
was this giant thing. And some people took that to the extreme and they had these 3-hour morning routines. Or you could just start working, like
Yeah.
send an email and see what happens. That's what I do now on Monday mornings, and it works really well. Um, there's
Sit
yeah.
in your ice
So
bath for
right. So
3 minutes.
some people kind of take that to the extreme, right? They go to the far end of it and they just take so long to work on themselves and they really don't spend any time working on the business. There is a difference as well between working on the business and working in the business. And a lot of people, when they start their own business, they just buy themselves a different job.
Mhm.
So can you talk about that and the difference between the two and how you go from spending all your time in the business to spending more time on the business?
Yeah, I mean, you said it yourself. You buy yourself a job. Earlier in our conversation, we mentioned that small business owners are often just technicians of their craft, right? They love what they do. So take the gym owner as an example. You know, and you started your gym because you love physical fitness. Like you can't deny that. You love to program, you love to coach. So you like being boots on the floor because that's a comfortable place for you. But in no other realm here were you given the business know-it-all to be able to work on your marketing, work on growing your like do all the necessary steps to grow your business. So your automatic default is just to be boots on the ground. Some of the most common ones that I speak to are like home remodeling businesses, like, you know, the general contractors or just things like that, where it literally is physical boots on the ground. They're the ones that are doing all the repairs, building whatever, you know, the dog walking business because she loves dogs and she just wants to be out on the street walking the dogs. Okay, cool. But that's like an all day thing. And when are you going to sit down and actually do the marketing that's going to expand your audience? So that's the transition of the business owner gaining a couple of maturity points, because that's ultimately what I alluded to, is understanding that there's a next level of your business and you need to step back from being boots on the ground in order to do the things that will actually grow your business. So it's, hey, I'm going to coach a couple less classes because that's going to give me some hours back in my day and I can reallocate those hours to actual growth orientated tasks. It's the dog walker who hires help to cover the morning shifts so she can grow her business in the morning. And then she still walks some dogs in the afternoon because that keeps her happy. And that's ultimately why she started this business in the first place, was to hang out with more cool dogs, you know, and so on and so forth. And so I think as the entrepreneur evolves and their maturity points stack up, that's when they understand that, okay, cool. Yeah, I do like being in the trenches and like doing these things, but I also understand that that is not the best use of my time. And I'm going to put myself in these other positions that I can generate more money for my business or grow the business in whatever way that I need to.
This
And
seems like a
that
great, sorry.
reaching that point for some business owners is really quick. Like they can make that connection that, okay, cool. Like I'm okay not being on the floor because I know that there's this whole other world ahead of me and I get to check the boxes on my leveling up. But there are some that, you know, just true to the term technician of your craft, that that is where they need to be. And so just not being willing to be curious about what are the things that they don't know that are going to help them grow, right? What are those next steps? Asking questions, just being willing to see the bigger picture, you know?
If you think of the CEOs of major companies, any of them, how many of them are cleaning the washrooms?
Yeah.
None, right? Like,
Yeah.
so this seems like a great opportunity to transition to the effective hourly rate and like a value ladder, and knowing where you fall on that, and when it's time to level up, when it's time to go to that next level on the ladder.
Yeah. So let's talk about like what those terms mean. Okay.
Yep.
So EHR, earned hourly rate, is how much money your time is literally worth dollar per hour. And so the easy way to figure that out is just line up all the tasks that you're doing, all the time you're spending on each thing, and what would it cost you to hire somebody to do those same things. And when you add it up at the end of the day, you can divide your money by time, and that'll give you your dollar per hour rate. The first time I ever did that on my business, I was making $4 per hour, and I just sat there. I felt like I had been smacked across the face with a brick.
Yep.
And I said to myself, like, honest conversation with myself, Taryn, you better get this fixed, or you might as well go work at McDonald's. Because at least at McDonald's, I would punch in and punch out and know that my job was done the second I punched out, and I was getting paid at least minimum wage, right? So that was a really sobering moment for me. And, you know, when other entrepreneurs go through that same exercise, I would say most have visceral uh, reactions from learning what your time is worth. A lot of them are making zero. So, you know, um, from there, being able to label out all of the things that you're doing next to what it would cost to hire somebody to do those things as you're trying to move upwards in your business to free up your time, whether it's to reinvest that time onto growth things, or if you're at a position where it's just simply to free up your time, the idea is to make those external hires, bring them into your company, train them on the low value tasks. So low value is, you know, like cleaning the bathrooms could be a minimum wage job. And then you take that time and you do what you need to do with it. So at this point, most of these business owners are reinvesting that time into stuff that will actually move their business forward, grow them, right? For me, that was like 8:30 at night, not spending 3.5 hours cleaning my 5,000 square foot gym. You know, you can hire cleaning companies. I hired a high school kid who had all the joy in the world to have that responsibility of making that place look pristine, you know? And as where I was slogging away with the mop, cursing and swearing and grumpy at myself that I was the one that had to do that. So it's not always a bad thing to offload the low value stuff, you know?
And it's not that those roles aren't valuable. They are
Right.
valuable. It's just for you at that moment. Where are
Right.
you? What is more valuable for your time and effort at this
Yeah.
moment in your journey?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you have a perfect day business mentorship company. What are some of the types of businesses that you've helped over the years?
Oh, honestly, this is the coolest part because no day is ever the same. As long as they are a service-based business, they can fall anywhere on the spectrum as long as they're a service-based business. So, you know, I've worked with physiotherapists, like all the health practitioner type of stuff. So like physiotherapist, massage therapist, chiro. Um, I did voice, I forget what do you like a voice therapy type of thing for kids
Oh
that
yeah,
are
yeah.
struggling to talk. Uh,
Oh,
and
speech
then
therapy. Yeah.
yeah, speech therapy. Sorry. And then you fire it to the other side and you have like plumbing, HVAC, you know, the really like nitty gritty boots on the ground service stuff for your house, like remodeling businesses, virtual companies like a VA agency, virtual nutrition coaching, all of those types of online businesses. Little asterisk there is a lot of the times it's teachers getting out of the profession and trying to build more flexibility and freedom. Yeah, you raising your hand, trying to build more freedom and flexibility into their life. And so starting an online business is something that is more interesting to them, which I think is a really, it's ironically a very common point in the people that we're dealing with. Um, yeah, like all over the spectrum. And that is probably my favorite thing about being a small business mentor is just no day is ever the same, because they
Mm.
all have different problems, although the solutions, the context that is applied is relatively the same. The concepts are the same. So, it's very intellectually stimulating because you get to have all different kinds of conversations.
You see it like just like troubleshooting, like problem solving. Here's the issue, and then on your side of it, you have a giant toolkit that you can just pull from and say like, "Oh, I've heard this before. Here's something for that."
Yeah, it depends where they are in their journey. Obviously, when clients first start with us, there is a guided step-by-step process that they need to go through and complete steps of, because you need to build that foundation, right? You need to lay the bricks before you put the doors and windows on the house. And so jotting down and problem solving things as they come up, that's later on once the bricks are put down. That's when we can attack the doors and windows. But for a lot of the stuff that they're dealing with when I first start working with them is like, okay, cool. Like, we just need to figure out who we're talking to and what your messaging needs to be like, because the stuff you're putting out there is not landing. You don't have leads coming in because you're trying to talk to everybody and you're not actually, you're selling features instead of talking about problems and solutions. So there's some bricks that need to be laid. And I think, people always ask me, what do you know about mentoring my industry? Insert whatever industry you
Yeah.
want, right? And arguably, I had that first argument to myself before I even started PDBM. Um, Here's the thing though, like, even just behind me, there's probably 30, 35 business books all sitting on this wall. And I know that you yourself have read it, and the people listening here have read all kinds of business books if they're business owners. None of those books are written so and so for dog walking business owners, so and so for hairstylists, whatever, right? Like, there might be one book that's specifically written, right? But those 35 that are behind me are excellent books, fantastic reads, but they're written in generalities, because what is important out of those books are the concepts. And then you get to apply the context into your business. And so that's how we operate. I don't need to know how to grow a website design business from the specifics of it, because you know those details. But I can walk you through the concepts and build you the foundation and build you the things that you probably don't have in your business right now, the fundamentals, and then help you through the rest. And we just put our heads together to apply the context. And so that's the part that I love the most, is like, it's no different than a business book. The only difference is I'm actually going to make you take action, where that book is probably sitting behind you covered in dust.
Exactly. What are the main buckets that you would help people with? We know like sales and marketing, those are kind of like major buckets. Are there any others?
So the clients in our CEO Clubhouse program, so that program is for business owners who are kind of stuck in that 8 to 10K a month range in revenue, and they want consistent 30K months. For those, we build their marketing first, then we build their sales funnel, and then we build their team, because usually they come in with inconsistent cash flow. They're usually doing all the jobs, like they're wearing all the hats in their business. And 9 times out of 10, they can't step away from their business and it still grow without them. So by focusing on marketing, sales, and team, that gets us to a point where there's the freedom of money, the freedom of time, and then the freedom of mental space. The synchronicity of those three is ultimately what brings upon their perfect day. So hence the name of my company.
Yes.
Um,
And I want you to talk about that. What does that mean, perfect day? I've gone through a process of defining it myself. Tell our listeners what it means.
so in by definition, for me, it's the synchronicity of that, the freedom of time, the freedom of money, and the freedom of mental space. What you do with those three freedoms is going to look different for everybody. So your definition of your perfect day probably looks a lot dramatically different from what mine is, right? When I was 20 and starting the gym, I knew that no matter what I decided to do in my life, I didn't want to stay in minus 50-degree Saskatchewan winters. I wanted to live
What?
somewhere warm. um, and so while that location has changed over the last 16 years, being able to have international property where I can work under the Arizona sun next to my pool and still grow my business, and that freedom to punch an airplane ticket on any given day at any given time, Like that freedom to me is what my perfect day exists. And so building your business in a method that gives you the freedom of money first, because you need money to buy time. So then the freedom of time second, and then the ability to step away or just step back from your business and it operates and grows without you, or it's at least not dependent on you, is the freedom of mental space. And so that looks different for everybody. You know, I have clients who want to relocate from the UK to Australia. Like they want to pick up and move their lives. I have clients who just simply want to be able to take 2 weeks summer vacations because they currently can't. You know, I have clients who just want to work 2 or 3 days a week for a couple of hours because they have young kids and they want to be around with their young kids. Like it looks very, very different for everybody. But the whole idea is that you build your business from day one. You make the decisions to support whatever that perfect day looks like for you. And we just don't think about that, right? Like I was probably an anomaly being a 20-year-old, knowing that I didn't want to live in Saskatchewan, but you know, most people that I talk to just don't know what that perfect day looks like. They've just never been challenged to sit down and write that out or to think that far ahead. Most of us think it's not possible, right?
And I've gone through the perfect day exercise a few times, and I've repeatedly hit it. Like I look back at the first perfect day exercise that I wrote down. That was decades, well, a long time ago. And it's like, wow, I checked off all of those boxes.
Congratulations.
Like, isn't that crazy? Then it's like, okay, I guess I'm doing a new perfect day. And so I want people to understand that it's going to evolve as you evolve as well. It's not a stagnant thing. So yeah, it's a working document, just like your resume. I mean, so
I thought I was always going to have the gym, but then as I crossed 35, I realized that the gym was not in my perfect day anymore. It was just a tool. And so, yeah, that brings us to what my perfect day looks like today, which is quite different.
That's so cool. Taryn, this has been a great conversation. I always end my episodes by asking the guests the same question. And I'd love to hear what your definition of resiliency is in your own words.
Your ability to continuously adapt.
Love it. How can somebody practically do that in their daily lives?
Everything is either you either win or you learn. So there is no failure. So if something doesn't go the way that you had intended or planned, what is the lesson that you can take away from it? And how do you apply that on your next attempt at it? Or what do you change, or, you know, like that? You either win or you learn.
Love it. Can you let us know where the listeners can find you on the socials if they're looking to connect with you?
Definitely. You can follow my personal Instagram and Facebook, Taryn Dubreuil. Just look me up. The vowels are in order of the keyboard. You can find me on YouTube, Taryn Dubreuil. And as well, if you would like to join our CEO Clubhouse school group, Kevin's going to link it in the show notes. And there's all kinds of free resources being popped up in there and all kinds of stuff to help you grow your business and move forward.
Absolutely. Those will be in the show notes for everybody to click through. It's been amazing. Anything else you'd like to share with us before we sign off today?
No, I think you got it all. Thanks, Kevin.
Right on. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on today, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Cool.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest episodes, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.